This is Seasons of Discontent with your hosts Rick Snyder and Matt Combs.
Welcome to Seasons of Discontent, Season 11, Episode 12, brought to you by Rick Snyder's Washington across social media. And I'm Rick Snyder.
And I'm Matt.
And we're back discussing all things Washington Commanders and DC life and whatever else. So please like, share, subscribe, and comment on YouTube. And if you're somewhere else, do something nice too. All right. The Washington Commanders are ranked 5th in the power ratings in the NFL. I think after they lost the opener at Tampa Bay, they were like 31st. And I was like, what? That can't be right. But when I looked at the rest of it, I thought, yeah, there's 2 undefeated teams in the NFC. No, 2 overall, KC and Minnesota. And there's only 2 teams with 4 wins. So, yeah, okay. I just can't believe that the people that do these things are willing to move Washington up.
But how can you not? Look at the way the offense is. Look at the way that the offense is playing. Even in a down week against the Browns, they were dominant. Now, I know the Browns' offense kind of stinks, and their offensive line is banged up, and we can give every excuse under the sun. But those are the teams you're supposed to go out and beat. The teams that are inferior to you, you go out and beat them up, and that's what they did. The defense is starting to come around. Look, I said it last week. I'm going to say it again this week. The 3 best players on the field were the free agents they brought in here, Chin, Luvu, and Dorrance Armstrong. So those are the guys that they paid in the offseason to come in here and produce, and they're finally producing. This defense is starting to come around. Why can't you call them? I'd call them 5th too.
Well, Kansas City's 5-0, and the champs deserve number 1 till they lose. Detroit's 3-1. I guess they got a bye.
Yeah, they had a bye this week.
Yeah, wow. They must be on to. So they're 2. All right. Minnesota's 5-0. So they're 3. Houston's 4-1. Whatever. And then Washington's 5th. And then the key is number 6 is Baltimore, who Washington plays this week. And all I've heard, and I've kind of said it too, is it's nice. 4-1's been good. You don't apologize for beating whoever you beat. But this is the one you got to do. And they're 7-point underdogs to a team lower than them in the rankings, to a road game that's only 40 miles up the road. At that, I'm a little surprised it's 7 points. I would have thought more like 3. But then they used to say 3 points is your home edge, so you're saying the teams are even. Well, I think Baltimore might be a touch better, but then again, after these last few weeks, what the hell? Maybe Washington's better than I did realize, but I'd tell people to take the points.
Well, weekly rankings, that's stats. You can back that with stats, and obviously the biggest stat is the 4-1. But with the naked eye, you can tell Baltimore is better. If you've watched any of the Baltimore games this year, I mean, they got a Ford F-250 for their running back, who's going to be hard to tackle and hard to bring down. I think the bigger stat is with Baltimore. Baltimore is very good against the run. They don't allow a lot of running, which this team has done the past couple games, and they're towards the bottom of the barrel when it comes to passing. So I think that the Commanders will be able to exploit that, but I think it's more of an evenly matched game than people are expecting. I'm surprised by the 7 points as well. I did read after what the line was set, it's already been teased down to 6.5, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I mean, I know we'll get into Baltimore in the next game, the next show, but yeah, I mean, it's all coming together, and I'll tell you, Rick, I didn't expect it to happen this fast. After what we saw week 1 against the Bucks, this defense looked like it was in just complete disarray, and they've put it together and turned it around within 3 weeks. It's pretty remarkable. You got to definitely tip your hats and give your credits to the coaching staff on this one, but it just goes to show you also what one dynamic player. I mean, we have to say it. Jaden has come in here and completely changed this franchise.
Yeah, Ron would always ask for 5-year plans, and these guys did it in 5 games.
Yeah. I read a stat today that in 17 games in 2024, this team had 14 rushing touchdowns. They already have 13 5 games in.
Yeah, Ron said if they had 40 of his players and won a Super Bowl, send him a ring. But I think we heard it wrong. I think it's 4 of his players because, like Emmanuel Forbes, 4 snaps. And I don't want to hear about he's hurt because he played more the week before. But yeah, 4 snaps means that you just don't want to cut him. That's all you're doing there. Jamin Davis got 23, which is at least something. But all those old players are gone. I am surprised the chemistry has come together this quickly. But when you have a good quarterback and you have a good running game, man, that takes away a lot of ills because you keep the ball more, so your defense isn't there. The defense has played better, but I got to see him do it against Baltimore. Really, I mean, it's still a show me thing because we're all used to being disappointed. That's the key. All the fans are like, "Oh," and I said, here's the key on this. They've had 5 playoff teams since the last Super Bowl 32 years ago, but they were always life and death to make it at the end. They were never 4-1. They never got to sit on some house money and enjoy the ride. You do this, you win this one, you got house money for a while.
I mean, so talk about house money. When's the last time we pull our starters in the fourth quarter of a regular season game with a comfortable lead? You got to remember they were up 34-6 going into the fourth quarter, and they pulled Jaden and pretty much all the starters that they could for the rest. Come on, man, that's dynasty New England Patriots. That's Peyton Manning towards the end of the season type stuff they got going on over there. It's just, yeah, and I would say, look, everybody's going to argue, oh, we got Chin and Luvu from Carolina. Well, I don't know if Ron drafted either one of those players, so he can't claim them. But yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'll put it to you that way, because I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, we're going to the Super Bowl. We have the greatest coordinator and coach and quarterbacks in all of NFL history. I'm not going to go quite that far. We have an exciting young quarterback that, if this is sustainable, is going to be a superstar in this league. He's already getting all the coverage on ESPN and NFL Network and all the places that disrespected him when they were the Redskins or when they had crap quarterbacks, or, they're getting national coverage. Dan Orlovsky is doing a weekly breakdown of Jaden Daniels on his show. John and Jay Gruden both are breaking down the Commanders games on their online shows or whatever they're up to. This team, we have an exciting young player who's going to get a lot of spotlight in this team, in this league, as long as he stays humble and he stays upright and he doesn't get hurt. This team, I'm cautiously optimistic about, because as much as I'm enjoying this 4-1 as a fan, I'm also looking to the future and saying, okay, well, draft pick's not going to be as high as I expected, but you can still use a first round pick to plug some holes, because I trust in what Adam Peters is doing. You're going to attract free agents to this team that want to be here. Now, obviously, you don't mess around too much, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You just kind of have to tweak and upgrade areas like you talked about. I don't see them going left tackle. Brandon Coleman has played very well for a rookie this year. It helps that you have a quarterback that can elude a pass rush, but Brandon Coleman has held his own. Luke McCaffrey looks like a steal of this draft class, aside from Jaden Daniels. Now, and I'm not talking about as far as his balls that he catches and his speed and stuff like that. Just the simple stuff, the mechanics of the game, where he blocks in the run game. He's bulldozing people downfield to open up running lanes. It's the little things that this team is doing under Dan Quinn that we never saw under Rivera. We barely saw it under Shanahan. I mean, like you said, by week 5, half these players were just tired of being here under the previous regimes.
Did you see the Jay Gruden tweet where he's standing next to this woman and her shirt says, "I survived the Dan Snyder era"?
And he said, "I didn't."
He did. I mean, I'm not sure what Jay's long-term goal is here. Maybe he's still getting paid, so he doesn't have to worry about it. But he has good insight on things. It's just weird to have an old coach, doing that. Usually they leave town and never look back.
No, Jay stayed.
Yeah, well, like I said, nowhere to go. That was part of it. But yeah, Jaden is he's everything that they hoped he would be, and he may end up being 5 years from now. We may be saying, he and Sonny, start saying the word Sonny on all of that. But the thing I noticed the most in the summer, I might have mentioned it before, is that during all summer, I didn't see the ball on the ground any. The incompletions were not there very much. I like that he struggled a little bit against Cleveland and then snapped out of it and came back. That's good because, there's going to be bad days out there.
Yeah.
Tell me you can do it when it's not all going well.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, against Cincinnati and the Cardinals, and it was gunslinger balls to the wall type play where everything was just working. But Cleveland, you had to work for that win. We saw it against the Giants. That was a hard game for him because the Giants defense is not that bad. They held him 7 field goals. Now, granted, was the offense clicking? No, but Jaden did have a rough day against the Giants. He had a rough day against the Buccaneers. He was starting to have a couple moments against the Browns, and like you said, he snapped out of it. And that's what I want to see out of the kid. How does he face adversity? We know, look, the kid. We know he's poised. We know he's respectful. We know he's just got, he's just going to stand in there and take the shot. It's how he responds to the adversity, and we saw it. He threw a pick in the red zone, bounced right back, marched right back down the field. How he responded to the adversity was very telling for me.
Yeah, I think Trustway punted twice. So
yeah, I was going to say he probably had to ice his foot after the game.
Yeah.
It's most work he's had in 4 weeks.
Yeah, I needed IV fluids to get through it or something. Because I think he punted the first possession.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. It was just funny. They just score. It's amazing. They had the stat up since the 1970 AFL NFL merger. This is the first team to ever average 30 points a game with a rookie quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, field and score. They have 3 good running backs. They pulled Robinson. He's had a sore knee. They got a couple touchdowns out of him early. The game got out of hand. They were like, good. You go sit on the bench the rest of the day. Which gave Eckler, Eckler popped a big one.
2. 2 big ones?
Yeah, well, at least one big one.
I'll tell you one thing, man. I don't know what Sandy or the LA Chargers were thinking when letting him go. They thought he was done. That man is far from done.
I mean, I don't know what happened to him there. Sometimes you run a new venue makes all the difference, and it certainly did for him. I think he signed a 2-year deal on there, so he's rejuvenated. Now, defensively, they've come a long ways more than I guessed. Armstrong's finally getting some pass rush out of him, which is great. They still don't have the guy on the other side. It's been a while. Effie Obata is a couple weeks away probably from returning. Not that he's, Reggie White.
Mm-hmm.
I think kicking Deron Payne outside more, playing a big, stout back like Johnny Newton or even Fedarius Mathis has helped them a little bit cure some of that. But they still give up a lot of runs. I mean, a lot of rushing yards. I'm going to stay here for Cleveland on there. They got 104 yards. Okay, so they've been giving up about 100 or so a game. That's okay as long as you don't give up too much. But I mean, I thought it was the best game by Samer still, because I've been watching this dude since they drafted him, and everybody was like, this guy's going to be great. And I honestly didn't see it. Even through the first few weeks of the preseason, I thought, I don't see it. But I tell you what, I saw it. You saw this game. He finally came back and started roaring at people, which was great.
Yep.
That's so positive. And I think
I'm interested to see what they're going to do with Jordan McGee when he starts. That was everybody kind of talked about how that was a kind of a steal in the draft. And of course he was injured coming in and he was in the pup, but I'm interested to see how he, reacts to the injury and recovers and see what he can do. He'll bolster that linebacking core. I mean, the linebackers have played well. Like I said, Luvu just awoke overnight. Like the guy is just all over the field against the Browns. He's got to keep it up against the Ravens. They have to, make sure they have sure tacklers in there against the Ravens. Cause like I said, you basically got to deal with the original Jaden Daniels and you got to deal with a Mack truck coming out of the backfield. So, and they have a good team over there. So that's why I said this next game, this is going to be a good test. And it's almost kind of like, hey, this is what we need to be type of game or type of team. This is how we need to be.
So the Veterans Committee, the Hall of Fame came out with 60 finalists, and they vote among that. They send 3 names over to the general voters, who almost always rubber stamp it and put them in. And on the Redskins, because none of them are Commanders, Larry Brown, Joe Jacoby, Pat Fisher, which I was like, "Ooh, Pat Fisher's on the list," and Henry Ellard did his last 5 years here. Henry Ellard had 814 catches. I mean, pretty amazing. But Larry Brown, I'd like to think he'd get in, but I think he's just the cusp. Jacoby, I bet they don't vote for Jacoby this time, but Jacoby will get there eventually. But I was going to Pat Fisher, and I was like, wow, they're bringing up Pat Fisher. And today, Pat Fisher died.
Oh, wow.
I was like, whoa, because I was just talking to somebody else about Pat the other day. Pat Fisher played for this team. He played for the St. Louis Cardinals from 61 to 66. And then he played 10 years in Washington. And he was listed at 5'9", 170. And that's because he was standing on a box holding a bunch of bricks. Because this dude was really like, I know we all shrink as we get older. Today, Pat was probably about 5'5", 120 pounds. I mean, but yet he could play against this guy, Harold Carmichael, who is 6'8". Now, back then, corners could hit the hell out of people all the time. And that's Pat's game. Today, he'd be St. Juice getting flags. Back then, Chris Hamburger told me the story once they're in the huddle, and they look over at Pat, and he's kind of just shaking, and he's literally foaming at the mouth. So that means two things could have happened. He had a stroke or he's gone rabid. So, okay, let him. He said, but that's how crazy manic he was in a game. And, he's 84 now. He passed away. It's too bad. I love Pat. I got to know him well. After his career, he sold, he trained racehorses for a little while. It didn't work out. And he sold real estate. And he was a really devout Christian and really talked about all of that with his clients and the best thing for them. And I think the last time I saw Pat was at Sam Huff's funeral. They're all kind of going away on this. But Pat was even a big punt returner in college. He sold Nebraska's record, I think. But a little nothing. I mean, Darrell Green talks about being an itty bitty guy. Darrell Green's much bigger than Pat Fisher was.
Yeah.
I even talked to Darrell the other day, and I said, we were just talking about Pat Fisher, and I said, do you think he belongs in the Hall of Fame? He's on this list. And he says, I didn't get to see him, like I did. I got to grow up watching Pat Fisher. Darrell didn't. He said, but I talked to him, and everyone I talked to thinks, yeah, he probably should be in the Hall of Fame. So I'm hoping if there's anything out of the sadness of his death, he had a good life. I think Pat enjoyed it all. And maybe they'll cut him a break and put him in the Hall of Fame. That would be pretty awesome for that.
Where's is Brian still in the active possibilities? He hasn't quite made it to the Veterans Committee yet.
Yeah, he's not to Veterans Committee yet. You have to be. I mean, he's right on the cusp because I think it's 20 years after you have retired and not been voted on. You go to the senior committee.
Well, they just put in Devin Hester, and the records that Devin Hester was breaking were Brian Mitchell's. So they need to go ahead and put Brian Mitchell in the Hall of Fame, please.
And Devin Hester's acceptance speech mentions Brian Mitchell, that he hoped he would get in.
Correct.
Well, that was a class move. I appreciated him doing that. All right, we're out of here and be back Thursday with the next edition of the one.
I tell you, Rick, these shows, man, is this what it feels like to be a Chiefs fan? Like, we got nothing to complain about.
Oh, Chiefs fans complain all the time. That's the amazing part.
Yeah, I know, right? And we're just not used to it yet.
Is Taylor coming to the games here? I mean,
I don't know.
It
does. If she does, hit me up.
All right. Well, after I get done with, interviewing her, I'll let you know.
All
right. I'm Rick Snyder.
I'm Matt.
See you soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Seasons of Discontent with your hosts, Rick Snyder and Matt Combs.